When I rolled into the water box for the final, I definitely took a moment to take in the whole situation.
2 cars left in the show. As things go, I would say Kris Whitfield is a little more experienced in this particular situation.
It sometimes could be a once-in-a-lifetime experience that you're staging for the final round of $1 million race. My name is Kris Whitfield, and I'm a drag racer from Denver, Colorado. I got started in drag racing sort of as a family affair. My dad's been into racing for the last 40 years. My uncle drag races, my grandpas, both of them on both sides of the family were into race cars. So it just seemed like a natural fit that I was sort of brought up in the whole drag racing world. We have 4 different race cars. One Super Gas Roadster, it's a 27T that was built in 1994. We also have 3 dragsters. They're all made by Undercover, so they're all really similar to each other. We have one that was made in 1997, one that was made in 2004, and one that was made in 2005. Some might think it's a little ridiculous to have 4 race cars, but we've definitely put all of them through the ringer, and having that spare car, that backup to go to when you really need it, it's come in clutch more times than I'd like to admit. My accomplishments to this point has been 17 track championships at Vandermeer Speedway. We run them hard at Vandermeer Speedway. We've put in a lot of work up there. Aside from racing at home, we have a division championship in Division 5 in Super Gas in 2019. I have 2 national event victories at Vandermeer Speedway as well for the Mile High Nationals. And then outside of the NHRA stuff, we do a lot of bracket racing. So we have wins at the Spring Fling. We have some big wins in Salt Lake City and some other bracket races across the country as well. My favorite racing memory to this point is definitely my first national event win. It was just the sweetest thing. It's kind of like the weight was lifted. All those years of chasing it, we finally got to get into that winner's circle and see what that was like. The Spring Fling this year was actually a challenge from the start. We knew it was taking a bit of a chance going out there with a new car that hadn't seen the racetrack yet, but we had faith that everything that we had done to this race car was correct and it was going to perform well from the start. It actually didn't turn out that way at all. We wasted the entire first day, all 3 time runs with, the car wouldn't even make it past 60 foot on any of those 3 runs. We had a bit of a hurdle there just figuring out what was wrong with the car. I hate to admit it, but it turned out that the carburetor was on backwards. Luckily, we had some good friends that were able to figure out the problem remotely and tell us what we needed to check. Really, after that, we didn't have any issues. It was just a matter of putting down the right runs against the right people to make it through the rounds. Second round was important for the progress that I was making that day. When I pulled into the staging lanes, honestly, I looked over and I saw a line of cars that was like, there was not a good draw in the bunch. I lined up against Gary Williams, who's one of, if not the most decorated bracket racer in the history of our sport. And I was like, well, if I'm not gonna have a good draw, I might as well take the top dog. Like, give me Gary. And that's just what it ended up being. In that lap, he actually did get me on the reaction time a little bit. He was 005, I think I was low teen, so I was still in the race. I ended up getting in front of him and basically forcing his hand into a drop, which gave me the room to go through the finish line without breaking out.
Kris Whitfield goes 14, dead on 2, 16 package. Williams, unfortunately, 005 of the tree, which was good, but then 3 over. Kris Whitfield was brutal.
That round right there sort of just set the tone for the rest of the day. That was like, if I'm gonna find the hitters, let's go ahead and let's do it. Like, if that's what the day is gonna be, that's gonna set the tone for the day. We're just gonna put our head down and just spend the whole day laying down the best laps we can and see how it turns out. I definitely had one lucky round. I don't even remember if it was 4th or 5th round. Honestly, the whole entire day is a blur at this point, but I can clearly remember one round where I missed the tree a little bit. I was 31 on the tree. My opponent next to me was actually 40 on the tree, which actually gave me enough room to get in front of him at the finish line and take a decent stripe and take the win light. But I definitely count that as my lucky round, being that late on the tree. The only time I was that bad on the tree the rest of the race was the final round where I didn't get lucky, so that just shows you that when you're 30-something on the tree, you better be lucky if you're gonna turn on a win light. All day long, my whole mentality was just to keep my head down, keep pushing through the rounds, because I knew that it was gonna be a long day and there was so much work to do. So when we got to the lanes and they said there's only 12 cars left, it's time to talk, it was a little bit eye-opening, and one of my focuses was that I didn't want to feel like I had accomplished something at that point. Like, yes, it's everyone's goal to make the split from a monetary standpoint, but there's still so much more work to do. So that was sort of the mindset going into it. But the other cool part of it too was that out of the 12 cars that was left, there were a lot of drivers in that group that a lot of people would pick to win the whole race. So just looking around, just looking at, I mean, to my left, I had Shane Carr. To my right, I had AJ Ash. Across from me, I had Peeps Pennington. Just these guys that I was standing around, just like, you know, usually I see them on live feeds racing on the other side of the country, and it's like these guys are bigger than life. But here I am standing amongst them like I'm one of them.
Kris Whitfield and AJ Ash.
The one round where I started to see the light was actually the split round. We had gotten down to 12 cars and my opponent was AJ Ash. He was making good laps all day long. I think he had come close to a perfect lap twice that day, so I knew he was making good runs, good reaction times, close to the dial. The way that it played out, he actually missed the tree a little bit against me. I think he was like 24 or something like that.
Wow, Kris Whitfield. Talked about how streaky Whitfield can be, and he is on a hot one now. Dead on one, 9 reaction time, 10-pack.
Having that kind of lap against that caliber of racer that late in the race, I think I really started to see the door opening up for me, and I started to think if I can do that against AJ, you know, just do it a few more times, we'll have a really good night.
Lights are on. Tree drops. Green light separated by 0.02 of a second. Matt Lee over the left side is going to bow out as Kris Whitfield by 1,000th of a second. I mean, rounded up to a 2,000 stripe. Whitfield 16 green and 466 on the 465. He is 16 and 11th over, getting the win against Matt Lee. Whoa.
White hot is Kris Whitfield, as now Alexis Thompson and Val Torres Jr. come up.
Oh, Alexis is in trouble. Val Torres, 005 and 484 on a 483.
She goes dead on 5, but it ends up being a 40-pack because of the 35 light. Bo Butner is aiming to stop Nasty Nick in his tracks. And off they go. Absolutely telepathic reaction times on both sides of the tree, and it's going to be Butner. 54.4, 151 miles an hour. Wow. 17-pack. He took 1,000 stripe. A beautiful run by Bo Butner. And
003 reaction time. Should end up being the bye to the final. Peter just nodded.
Peter nodded.
It's over. Bye to the final round for Bo Butner.
Bye to the final. Unreal. Whitfield dialed 465. Torres dialed 483.
Both have been deadly letting go. Both have been right on the number as they cross the stripe. Tree falls, stays green, and away we go. Advantage to Kris Whitfield. And Kris Whitfield is making his way to the final. Kris, 17th thou on the reaction clocks. Goes 466 on a 465. He is 12th thou above.
His crew is running like something's on fire down there.
It is on fire. Right now there is a big check that is like burning in somebody's pocket as they are ready to claim that.
When I rolled into the water box for the final, I definitely took a moment to take in the whole situation.
2 cars left in the show.
As things go, I would say Kris Whitfield is a little more experienced in this particular situation.
It sometimes could be a once-in-a-lifetime experience that you're staging for the final round of $1 million race.
$250,000 is what is on the line right now. Whitfield is dialed in at 465. Butner is dialed in at 453. The head start will belong to Whitfield by 0.12 of a second. And then Bo Butner is going to try to run him down at the finish line. Again, I don't know what the split was. You don't know what the split was, if there was any at all. I'm sure there was a lot of discussion. Our showgirls have taken their position on the starting line. Somebody is going to add their name to the list of the immortals that have won the Spring Fling Million.
Only to be whisked away in the limousine that's waiting on the return road to the suite in the Cosmopolitan Hotel. Bo Butner, second of stage.
As we're in set, tree drops. We stay green. Bo Butner grabs the advantage on the starting line, and with a 13th thou reaction time, he goes dead on 316 total, getting a 14th thou stripe. The Las Vegas side of the scoreboard lights up. Kris Whitfield was 034 at this end of the racetrack, and was hanging on by the skin of his teeth, but could not get it done against Bo Butner, your champion of the Spring Fling Million Day, the guy who's like now won it all, Bo Butner.
So when the wind light didn't come on, my first thought was, man, that sucks. But my next thought was, I hope I put up a good fight. I saw the wind light come on in the other lane. I saw that he was dead on 3. I figured he was good on the tree. When I got the ticket and saw that I was 34 on the tree, instantly I think 34 will be a number that I remember for the rest of my life. Like, it'll just have this special, awful meaning to me, because that's not the way that I wanted to represent myself in the final. Honestly, I can say that when I let go of the button, I thought I got all of it. I even told myself, I can remember that split second when the second yellow light came on, I said, you got it, leave it alone. I didn't need to touch my bump up or bump down buttons, and I'll stick by that. I thought I hit it. Maybe it was the situation as a whole that threw off my perception a little bit. But you know, I'll own up to it. It was a pretty bad reaction time in the final of, you know, one of the biggest stages in drag racing. If anything, I'll just use that as motivation to come back and find that redemption. Losing the final round is absolutely the most motivating feeling that I've ever had. I felt like I hit the pinnacle of my career to date by going to the final round and getting my butt whooped. The motivation that I have now, I've never wanted to go racing on that stage worse than I do right now. Like, I want to get right back out there and give it another shot. The Spring Fling is definitely something that I think everyone needs to experience. If you have aspirations of racing outside of your home track and seeing what it's really like on a big stage, I don't think there's any other race that replicates the feeling that the Spring Fling can give you. It's brutal, it's demoralizing. At the same time, it's motivating and it's uplifting when you do succeed at that sort of a race. Just even what I got to experience going to the final of the million, it's something that I wish everybody in the sport got to experience. And that's why I like to share my story on what it actually feels like. I definitely hope that everyone at least gives it a shot. And if you're lucky, you will get to experience it, and hopefully you'll share your story just like I am. I definitely have a great support system. My dad, he pours his heart and soul into my racing just as much as I do. And I know that without him, everything would be a whole lot different than it is. I don't think we'd be at the level that we are. My mom is right there with him. My little brother, he's our biggest supporter of the group. My wife is there. If she's not at the racetrack, she's taking care of the house so that I can be away at the racetrack. And then aside from just all the friends and family that we have, I have some really awesome sponsors. Go Fast Energy is obviously our biggest supporter. They're our main sponsor. DJ Safety has been with us for a long time. DMP Awnings, Bishop's Performance Transmissions has come on board this year as a huge supporter. Renegade Race Fuels, they're a huge supporter of ours as well. Premier Diversified Insurance and Gothi Enterprises. Also, Man Cave, they keep these cars looking good. They're just experts at polishing and keeping things clean and shiny, and that's the way I like to have our stuff. When we go racing out on the road, I get so many messages from people at home and even people across the nation that they support us, and I feel it. You know, everyone that watches on the live feeds, everyone that sends us messages of support, I hear and I read every single last one, and it's definitely appreciated.